Hello and welcome to everything I have been reading. I'm going to start with January of 2024. And we'll see if I make these individual videos or a year-long video. We'll see what's going on. It is currently August, so I've definitely been slacking on making these videos. And I've got a lot going on in life, so I figured I have some time. Let's talk about what I read. So starting off with the very first book I read in January, I reread Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So I haven't read Little Women in a very long time. Growing up, this was actually one of my very favorite books, and reading this was like a good start to the year. Every around Christmas time / New Year's, me and my husband always watched Little Women, the newer movie. And so I was kind of like, I want to reread this book because I haven't read it in a long time. I would say I give this book overall like a 4.5. The first half of this book I would give 5 stars because I do love reading about the March sisters and seeing their different personalities. But then the second half of the book, I don't feel like it's as strong. But overall, super great book, super poetic throughout the story, and it's a classic for a reason. All right, and then after that, I read You Will Know Me by Megan Abbott. So this book's interesting read overall. It revolves around this family, and their goal is to get their daughter to the Olympics, and they're gonna do whatever it takes to get there. There's like a mystery element to this book. I did feel like thrown into the story, like in the middle of the story, so it was kind of hard to follow each character. Especially at the beginning, because you're just like, who is who and what's going on? But it did keep my attention, so that's good. Overall, I would give this book 3 stars. And then I read Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. If you know me, I'm gonna read Alice Feeney. So this is one of her, I think this came out last year or this year, I can't remember. The story was not so much about like murder kidnapping as it might seem. I'm not really giving plot details in this story, just more so reviews, or in this video, sorry. But it's more about the family. Overall, I think the twists and the turns of the story were interesting to follow, but sometimes it was hard to follow each character necessarily. Overall, I would give this book 4 stars. My cat is desperately trying to be in this video right now. Then I read The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. Overall, this is a pretty enjoyable read. I did give it 4 stars. It kept me intrigued throughout. It kept me guessing. I did think that there were some elements that could have been better. I really liked the characters, but the writing is kind of where I struggled. But overall, pretty interesting read there. Then I reread Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. So I read the Hibbert sisters stories maybe 2 years ago. So I was like, hey, let's reread it. And last time I read it from 3, 2, 1. So this time I was like, let me read it 1, 2, 3 and see if my opinion has changed at all. My rating actually went down for this one. I gave it 3 stars this time around. I do think the character's chronic illness is well covered, but the breakup, there's always a breakup in these books, a little bit flawed. It's a good series overall, so always worth a check out. And then I read The Stand-Up Groomsman by Jackie Lau. I would give this 3.5 stars overall. I enjoyed the story and the premise of the rom-com. I did think the characters were unique and they were a very cute couple. But they had a little too much detail in the wrong place. Like, she was going into detail about like the games they were doing for the wedding and details about what they were eating, and I'm like, where's the details about the relationship? Or talking about his stand-up comic routine, a little too much for me. But cute little romance. Then I read Blessed in the Mess by Joyce Meyer. My mother-in-law actually recommended this book to me, and overall I really enjoyed reading it. I did not know much about Joyce Meyer before reading this book. Obviously I've heard her name before, but I felt like this story was really well done. I feel like the messages definitely struck a chord with me. And I also enjoyed like the biblical, how she had like equal amount of biblical verses versus like personal messages inside the book as well. Overall, I would give this one 4 stars. Then I read Where They Wait by Scott Carson. This is a very like atmospheric read. I enjoyed following the character and like the lore of like the app that he was writing about. I do wish the ending was different, but it was a very successful spooky type story, so I would give this one 4 stars. And then the final book I read in January was We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. So this is probably a 3.75. I enjoyed the premise of the book, but I think the execution was not my style. I wish we would have had insight from the other friend, or maybe a chapter versus chapter type of story. And I also think the ending was kind of rushed. But overall, those are the books I read in January of 2024. And we'll see if I do more in this video or another video, or who knows? Future Stacy, pop in if you want.